Good morning and welcome to Second Unitarian Church. I am John Rice, a member of the Church Board of Trustees, and my pronouns are he, him, his. In response to COVID-19, we at 2U are doing our part in slowing the spread of the coronavirus. We are continuing to meet virtually using Zoom. We may have some bumps along the way, and we appreciate all the grace everyone extends in this moment. Special thanks to our amazing team taking care of all the technology. You will notice that there is a chat feed available for you to interact with. You are welcome to use this to say hello to one another and share your joys or concerns when you reach that time in the service. When we would traditionally sing together and read together in unison, you are encouraged to do so as well, even though you are on mute. Our voices echo through the world, so we might just hear one another if we listen closely and sing with our full spirit. As things continue to change, we will be paying close attention to the recommendations of public health officials and respond as quickly as possible. At this time, we recognize physical distancing in this moment as an act of love and protection. You are not in this crisis alone. Even if we cannot always see each other's faces or clasp one another's hands, we are still here for one another. If you have urgent needs, please reach out to Kate Learson, our congregational administrator, and she will connect you with one of our community ministers or lay pastoral team members, as Reverend Jason is taking some much-deserved vacation and study time. We especially welcome newcomers this morning. During this time of pandemic, finding a new community and making new connections can be challenging. Please know that we are excited to have you and look forward to getting to know you. If you are new to us today, you are welcome to note that in our chat, and please send an email to Kate Learson in our office so that she can connect you with our membership committee. You may find more information and announcements in your order of service. Rebecca Armstrong is a graduate of the University of Chicago Divinity School and Meadville Lombard, the Unitarian Universalist Seminary. She has spent the last 30 years teaching and preaching about the role of the mythic imagination in contemporary life, leading seminars around the world and teaching classes. We are honored for her to be our guest this minister at 2U today. I now welcome Jim Simonis to lead our call of worship.
We are a Unitarian Universalist congregation, a community of children, youth, and adults, a people of many beliefs and traditions, bound not by the specific list of things we believe, but by the values we share. Whether you are joining us for the first time or for the thousandth time, you are welcome here. Whether you believe in God some of the time, all of the time, or none of the time, you are welcome here. Whatever your race, whomever you love, whichever way you move in the world, however much money is in your pocket, you are welcome here. I invite you now to take a breath in and out. As the music begins, let us enter into our worship service together.
Thank you for that exquisite music to open the service. These are the words for our chalice lighting. In the lighting of this flame, I say yes. Yes to being the one who runs toward the poor, the tired, the ones yearning to be free, and takes the torch from their trembling hand. Yes to being the one who turns into the darkness and keeps running, feet pounding, heart pumping, not knowing when or whether I'll reach the goal. Yes to being the one who calls out loudly the message, welcomes the other runners, sings the fierce heat of love and anger and hope before passing the torch along. Joy, will you light our chalice today?
Good morning. Please join your voices in with mine to sing our opening hymn, For All That Is Our Life. For all that is our life, we sing our thanks and praise. For all life is our gift, which we are called to use to build the common good and make our own days glad. For needs which others serve, for services we give, for work and its reward, for hours of rest and love, we come with praise and thanks for all that is our life. For sorrow we must bear, for failures, pain, and cross, for each new thing we learn, for fearful hours that pass, we come with praise and thanks. For all that is our life. For all that is our life, we sing our thanks and praise. For all life is our gift, which we are called to use to build the common good and make our own days glad.
Please join me in reciting our covenant. The words are on your screen. We covenant to build a community that challenges us to grow and empowers us to honor the truth within ourselves. We will be generous with our gifts and honest in our communication, holding faithful to a love that embraces both diversity and conflict. Called by our living tradition, we will nurture spirituality within a vision of the eternal, living out our inner convictions through struggles for justice and acts of compassion.
Please join me in singing Spirit of Life. Spirit of life, come unto me, sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion, blow So now it is time for our story for all ages. So if your kids are not in the room yet, it's a good time to ask them to join you. Today's story is called The Red Tree. It is written and illustrated by Sean Tan. This story was chosen by our minister today, Reverend Rebecca Armstrong, and the video version you're about to see was adapted by Christy Grant from a film adaptation by Benjamin Eggins. Sometimes the day begins with nothing to look forward to. And things go from bad to worse. Darkness overcomes you. Nobody understands. The world is a deaf machine without sense or reason. Sometimes you wait and wait and wait and wait and wait and wait and wait. But nothing ever happens. Then all of your troubles come at once. Wonderful things are passing you by. Terrible fates are inevitable. Sometimes you just don't know what you're supposed to do, who you are meant to be, or where you are. And the day seems to end the way it began. But suddenly, there it is, right in front of you, bright and vivid, quietly waiting. Just as you imagined it would be. Only when it is dark enough can you gaze upon the stars. Thank you for sharing this story with me today.
Each year, we all make a commitment, a pledge to support the ministry of our church. In addition to this contribution, each Sunday we take a collection so that we can share with those doing justice beyond our church community. While we are unable to come together in person, you can still share your resources. To make your contributions, send a text and follow prompts. We will have the number on your screen as the music plays for the offertory. For this month, we are sharing our plate with Latinos Progresando. I welcome Adelia Perez and Maritza Guzman to share more about this organization.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for inviting us. My name is Maritza Guzman. I'm the Development Director at Latinos Progresando.
Good morning. My name is Adela Perez, and I am the Community Engagement Coordinator at Latinos Progresando. And I'm going to share a little bit more about Latinos Progresando. Latinos Progresando is a Chicago-based nonprofit organization specializing in the issues of immigration legal services, community health, education, and peace. As an extension of this work, Latinos Progresando leads the Marshall Square Resource Network, a 40-partner coalition on Chicago's southwest side. Latinos Progresando reaches families throughout Chicago from 20 states across the United States and 40 countries around the world. Now, we're going to take a minute to talk about our COVID-19 response efforts. As the lead agency of Marshall Square Resource Network, Latinos Progresando has been coordinating information and resources to increase as access to food, medical care, and other basic needs. We deliver more than 25,000 units of PPE, masks, gloves, sanitizers to households, to frontline workers, and to small businesses. We have given more than $70,000 in direct financial assistance to families who needed it the most. It could be undocumented families suffering from domestic violence, seniors, and to owners to small business who are not eligible for other financial relief.
As Adela mentioned, we specialize in immigration legal services, family immigration. Given that we couldn't see clients in person due to the pandemic, we had to establish an immigration hotline because people still have urgent, life-altering questions and important documents still expire during a pandemic. Those pieces of paper are essential to our community to accessing income, healthcare, and safety from violence. Since opening the hotline, we've had more than 5,400 calls, served over 1,000 clients, and filed more than 150 legal processes. Due to the pandemic, we realized that even though our community was receiving information from different outlets, TV, radio, a lot of information was not available in Spanish. So what we did is we partnered with Mayor Lori Lightfoot to co-host a virtual town hall in Spanish. And we also launched and continue to update a bilingual resource guide that's hosted on our website. And it includes a spectrum of resources for families, organizations, and small businesses. Again, this is just a very short summary of all the important work that's happening in our community, and we hope that you can visit our website, latinospro.org, to learn a little bit more, and that you can connect with us and continue supporting our organizations by following us and engaging with us on social media. We are active on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube, Instagram at Latinos Pro. Every day we share bilingual resources and information regarding COVID-19 and other opportunities. We hope that you can share our content so that it gets into the hands of the people that need it the most. The work is certainly not over, and with your support, we will be there to help our community recover and heal. Thank you.
Now I invite you to join in reading our offertory words. The words are printed in your order of service and are on the screen. This church is the community of ourselves. Its energy and resources are our energy and resources. Its wealth is what we share. As we contribute to the life of this community, we affirm it and enable its participation in the larger world around us. The offering will now be generously given and gratefully received.
I invite you now into the spirit of prayer and meditation. Let's start by breathing together. We begin in thanks. Thankful for the breath in our lungs, the beauty of our earth, the strength of this community. We hold in our hearts those who care for family in ill health, those who live with grief or chronic pain, those struggling with addiction or illness, seen and unseen. We are with you. For parents, for teachers, all those whose primary spiritual practice is caring for our children, we are with you. We pray for our neighbors in prison, for those who struggle to stay afloat in the midst of poverty. We are with you. We pray for those living in harm's way. We pray for the planet and commit to work in a way that will lead us from the harms of climate change. We pray that wisdom, compassion, and empathy guide the leaders of this world. May they and we be instruments of a just and lasting peace. Our lives are blessed by those who knowingly, with curiosity and courage, face their days, even the final ones. For those locked in concentration camps at the border, for those held in cages and inhumane conditions, for those in detention centers here and elsewhere, we commit to doing more, and we are with you. For those struggling with fear and anxiety right now, we offer our prayers of comfort and care. For those who face the loss of job, financial resources, we offer solidarity and a commitment to share what we can. For those struggling with isolation, we reach out with love. We are with you. Into this shared silence, I invite you now to speak the name of anyone you wish to lift up into the loving support of this community. With our deepest compassion, let us hold in our hearts those named and those unnamed, those remembered and those forgotten. Let it be so. Blessed be. At this time, I want to light 2 candles. These 2 candles represent our joys, the celebrations, and our concerns and our sorrows. As we listen to the music, please share your joys and your concerns in the chat so that we can all help celebrate and help share the burden of grief. We hold all these joys, celebrations, sorrows, and struggles close to our hearts. We are with you. Thank you, everyone, for sharing. Our reading today is from the poet David Whyte, who, while on a pilgrimage to Tibet, happened upon an extraordinary shrine room and was struck by the beauty of the enormous carved faces that line the walls of this shrine. This is an excerpt from his poem, The Faces at Braga. In monastery darkness, by the light of one flashlight, the old shrine room waits in silence. Such love in solid wood. Taken from the hillsides and carved in silence, these faces have the vibrant stillness of those who made them. Carved in devotion, their eyes have softened through age, and their mouths curve through delight of the carver's hands. If only our own faces would allow the invisible carver's hand to bring the deep grain of love to the surface, if only we knew, as the carver knew, how the flaws in the wood led the searching chisel to the very core, we would smile too, and not need faces immobilized by fear and the weight of things undone. If only we could give ourselves to the blows of the carver's hands, the lines in our faces would be the trace lines of rivers feeding the sea, where voices meet praising the features of the mountain and the cloud and the sky. Our faces would fall away until we, growing younger toward death every day, would gather all our flaws in celebration to merge with them perfectly, impossibly, wedded to our essence, full of silence in the carver's hands. Someone wrote wowza in the chat. I completely concur. Thank you, Carl and Annabelle, for giving the phrase liturgical dance a whole new vibrant meaning. What magnificent artistry, and yet the poignancy of seeing two such great artists in that space, their faces masked. And what a perfect introduction for my sermon today, because it is all about the human face. And I'd like to share with you how I came to this idea of doing a sermon about the human face. It started in a dream that I had, a dream in which I was sitting outdoors at a cafe with lots of other people, which in itself was a joy. This was a dream at the beginning of June, and I hadn't had the opportunity to sit outside with a group of other people since early March. So I was enjoying the dream, but I noticed that, as is typical in normal life nowadays, that all of the people at these little cafe tables were in fact not looking at each other, not looking at each other's faces. They were all, as you might expect, staring down into their cell phones like this. At a table adjacent to me were two characters who looked suspiciously like the two characters in the great Neil Gaiman novel called Good Omens, which came out on Netflix last year. An angel and a demon who have been sent to Earth to fight for their respective bosses and end up coming together to try to save the Earth. So these two characters at the next table are observing the fact that the human beings are not looking at each other, that everyone has their face buried in technology. And the angel says, don't they remember that that's why they were embodied? That's why they came, so they could have the experience of seeing each other face to face. And the demon laughs and chortles and says something about the perversity of human nature. And the angel says, we have to do something to get them to remember that the human face is why they came. And the demon suggests, well, we could make it really, really hard for them to see other human faces, and maybe they would miss it. Maybe they would come to regret that they had missed seeing each other's faces when they had the chance. And the angel says, but how are we going to get them to a place where they can't see each other's faces? You know, a carnival all year long? And the demon gets this little smile and he says, what about the plague? When I woke up from this dream, I realized that one of the things we human beings do a lot, and consciously do when we're being in a creative modality, is to try to make meaning, to try to make sense of things that feel chaotic, things that don't make sense. And in fact, I have used this precise writing prompt in groups that I've led, where I ask people to take what they consider to be the worst thing that ever happened to them and write a storyline in which that bad thing turns out to have been the most important event, which allowed the rest of their life to have meaning and beauty. And people are astonished at with what relative ease you can rewrite the worst thing that has happened and turn it into a thing of positive beauty, an anchor to the life that you were meant to live. So clearly my dream was trying to turn me away from this idea that our current pandemic is the worst thing that has happened to us in memory, and try to find what we might call the silver lining. What if we couldn't see each other's faces for so long that it forced us to remember how much we loved looking into each other's faces, so that we would miss it, we would feel its absence. And so this idea of finding again the human face turned me to a little-known Lithuanian philosopher by the name of Emanuel Levinas. Levinas lived during the early part of the 20th century and had the great misfortune to be captured during World War II and forced to endure 5 years in a Nazi labor camp for prisoners of war. But it was during those 5 years that he came to his most important philosophical insight, which was what he called the theology of the human face. And what I'm going to offer you in the next 25 minutes is just 4 short quotes from the theology of the face from Levinas, and illustrate these little points with stories, images from mythology, which help to illuminate the deep meaning of this man. The first quote, Levinas says, "The epiphany of the human face opening to another is a conversation I cannot evade. Before the hunger of a human face, responsibility is the only response." So obviously you can hear how this theology would arise after 5 years of living near starvation in a prison camp. Turning one's face of hunger towards another human being who literally held your life in the palm of his hands, who could with a single stroke annihilate your life or bring it back, and wondering what it was you needed to do to make him see your face in such a way that he understood you and I are family. We are brothers. There is nothing that separates us. How can you look into my face of hunger and not feel within yourself a response to my need? This profound sense of urgency, of an ethical demand that we cannot avoid, is at the very heart of Levinas's theology of the human face. And in selecting the reading that I did today, The Faces at Braga, I wanted to draw your attention to the really exquisite lines from David White, where he talks about the willingness to give ourselves into the carver's hands, and that if we understood how the flaws in our face is what drives the making of our life, the driving of our character, we would allow our faces to forget this weight of grief and things left undone, the darkness that we hold. We don't really show each other our open faces, our naked faces. We, in the case of women, we literally paint our faces before we present them to the world. The wonderful Dutch artist Frederik Frank, a Buddhist who wrote the beautiful books about Zen painting and drawing, said, you know, when I draw a human face, it is as if the face begins to drop its veils one at a time. Each veil is a gift, but I keep drawing until all the veils have dropped to reveal the essence of that human face. And until I draw, I do not really know. And this beautiful and critical insight is so important, because the idea that we cannot truly be known until we are seen is at the heart also of Christian theology. To see through a glass darkly is one thing, but the promise that at some point we will see face to face and be known, that is the promise of living a spiritual life, of finding a spiritual grounding. Levinas had also things to say about the darkness in which he found himself and in which we certainly find ourselves. And a critical core of that darkness has not changed since Levinas wrote about it in the 1930s, and if anything has become even more intense. I think you can feel the dream echo of losing ourselves in technology in the calculating mind. Here's Levinas again. He says, this world in which cool logic is more and more at home is not habitable. It is hard and cold like those depots in which are piled up goods that cannot satisfy, neither clothe those who are naked, nor feed those who are hungry. It is as impersonal as a factory hangar, as an industrial city in which manufactured things remain abstract. True with statistical truth, born on the anonymous circuits of the economy, resulting from skillful planning decisions which cannot prevent but rather prepare us for disaster. There it is, the calculating mind, already alienated by the very things which it has produced. This very, very dark view of humanity, which is so cold and calculating, reminded me of a really chilling mythological story that comes from the Kiowatel indigenous peoples of the Pacific Northwest. They have a legend about a particularly ghastly kind of monster, a frightening serpent who goes by the name of Sisiutl. Sisiutl is terrifying because it has a head on both sides of its body. On either end of its long, sinuous body is a head, and both of these heads are called soul seekers. They seek a soul from a human, and they seek it, and when they find it, they suck it out through the face. This is a very interesting myth. It has a lot of crossover to some of the Japanese mythology of the soul suckers who come at you in the dream world. So Sisiutl is feared mostly by those when they go out in their small canoes to fish, because Sisiutl's trap is that as you are on the water, not grounded by being on the land, but out in the water, it can come towards you. Sisiutl envelops your boat. And if in your fear you try to flee, Sisiutl will begin to blow with both mouths, which sends your little boat spinning. In this spinning fashion, you can no longer navigate your way in life, and you'll be spun out farther and farther from the land until you are lost forever. The howls and wails of your lost voice will linger on the wind, be heard in the sound of storms at sea, and you will never be found again. If Sisiutl finds you and you turn away and try to flee, he will suck the soul from your face. But you must listen, say the wise ones, for there is a way to escape this terrible fate. When you hear the hissing of Sisiutl coming around your boat with his two fearsome faces, you must not flee. Of course you are frightened. It is right to be frightened of such a terror, but do not turn. Stand still. Hold your space. For here is the truth. Before Sisiutl can suck the soul from your body, both of its faces must come up and must turn toward each other. And in that moment, Sisiutl sees its own other face. And the wise ones say, anyone who has seen the other half of his own face has seen the truth and is whole. So in that moment, if you can sit there in your terror and allow Sisiutl to move about you, Sisiutl will see his own face and he will have found the truth. And then Sisiutl will bless you, and you will be whole and full of power. You will be one who knows that the truth is to be found in seeing your own true face. some pretty profound psychology in this ancient myth, which I hope you can appreciate the depth of. This is true not only at the personal level, but certainly also at the collective level. One of the great challenges we're facing is this polarization. We have cis-utiled ourselves and our society. We don't remember that we share the same body down under the boat in the unconscious. We see only the opposing viewpoints, the opposing perspectives as they appear above the water. And so we cannot truly find the truth. We cannot find our wholeness until we are willing to look into the face of the other and recognize it as our own. Levinas has another exquisite passage from his book on the ethics of the human face. He says, we can only access God through the trace that is revealed in the other. The dimension of the divine opens forth from the human face. And I will say this quite plainly, what the truly human is, and don't be afraid of this word. It is love. The ability to see the divine love in the face of the other takes us to one of my very favorite tales in all of mythology. This comes from my own Celtic tradition, and this story goes back probably to about 600 AD. Is first written down somewhere in the 8th or 9th centuries. It's part of the great Arthurian group of mythology and legend. It's called Sir Gawain and the Green Knight, but the part I want to draw your attention to is the relationship between Sir Gawain and the woman who presents herself as Dame Lady Ragnall, the Loathly Lady. What has happened in the story is that poor King Arthur has mistakenly stumbled into the domain of the Green Knight. And the great Green Knight has, in a sense, caught King Arthur in a misdeed and challenges him to a duel. The Green Knight is so powerful that everyone fears Arthur will lose his life. There is a riddle attached to this duel, and it is that King Arthur might save himself and not have to fight if he's able to answer the riddle of the Green Knight. And the Green Knight's riddle is, what is it that women truly desire? You can see they were already interested in gender psychology way back in 600 AD. Well, of course, King Arthur can't get the right answer to this riddle. And as he's on his way, sadly, to fight the Green Knight, he meets the Loathly Lady in the woods. And she, who is clairvoyant, tells him everything that has happened up to that point and announces that she knows the answer to the riddle that will save his life. But she requires one thing in return, which is marriage to one of the knights of the Round Table. Sir Gawain is the knight that has accompanied Arthur into the woods, and Gawain very gallantly offers to be the noble knight who marries Dame Lady Ragnall, although she is the most hideous character, the most hideous creature either of them has ever seen. The description of her is truly loathsome. Nevertheless, Gawain insists that he will marry her. And the part of the story that I'm going to tell you takes place there on the eve of their wedding. The banquet was a sad affair, for all could see that Gawain was in dread of the Loathly Lady. And she, though she pretended to dine in great and high festivity, her dreadful face was filled with loathing. And so when the two of them at last bade farewell to the company, there was little rejoicing and much grieving as Sir Gawain and Dame Lady Ragnall made their way up the stairs to the bedchamber. Once there, Dame Lady Ragnall turned to her new husband. "Husband," she said, "shall we not now go to the bridal chamber to consummate our marriage? And will you not give me your bride a kiss then to seal our love?" Gawain reached deep into his heart to find the courage to turn and face this loathly lady. But when he raised his face to kiss her, he looked into her eyes and saw there, mirrored his own eyes, saw in her face the same grief and terror that he felt in his own heart. Moved by her grief, tears filled his eyes, and he said, "Nay, lady, not only a kiss, but an embrace as well." And he took her in his arms and kissed her, and then fell weeping against the wall, and was astonished to hear behind him a voice filled with laughter and light. "Oh, husband," she cried, "look what you have done." And turning, he saw before him the most beautiful woman he had ever laid eyes upon. "But where is my wife?" he cried. "Where is Dame Lady Ragnall?" "I am she. You, in your compassion, have freed me from the curse. Freed me, that is, from half the curse. For now you have a terrible choice in front of you. As you see me now, this is my true state. Beautiful, lovely, but you must decide whether you would wish me this way during the day, when others are about and might see me in my true form and be glad for you. And yet you would know what it is you must face at night, when you and I are alone together in the bedchamber. Or would you have me beautiful at night like this, where you alone can enjoy my beauty, and yet face the scorn, the ridicule, the pity of those who know and love you during the day when we must walk? Choose now, husband. Choose now, and live with your choice." Gawain once again looked into the face of Lady Ragnall, and a smile came to his own lips, and a voice from deep in his heart spoke out with a laugh. He said, "Nay, nay, lady, it is not my choice. It is your choice. For you are the one who must bear the most, either way we choose." And at that, the lovely lady laughed and fell into his arms. "Ah, Gawain," she cried, "you have now freed me entirely from the curse. You have given the answer to the riddle. What is it that a woman most desires? It is sovereignty, the right to rule herself." This is truly a profound myth and takes us to the heart of what it is that we see if we look deeply enough into the face of the other. We see their right of sovereignty, their right to rule their own life. And is this not at the heart of what Emmanuel Levinas is trying to alert us to? The deep theology, what he called the first principle, the ethics that lie in the human face. Let me close with a final passage from Levinas. He says, "The face opens the primordial discourse, whose first word is obligation. You may not turn away. The human face is the force that convinces even those who do not wish to see. The face is the first principle of all philosophy. And that concludes our sermon for today. Please join us in singing our closing hymn, There Is a Love.
There is a love holding me. There is a love holding all that I love. There is a love holding all. I rest in this love. There is a love holding us. There is a love holding all that we love. There is a love holding all. We rest in this love. There is a love holding us. There is a love holding all that we love. There is a love holding all. We rest in this love. We rest in this love.
Our benediction, our words that I wrote, future facing. And I invite you to look into the face of someone, if you are with your loved ones in the same room, or look into the mirror to see your own true face and hear these words of benediction. Your face orders and ordains me. Because you are not me, my world must break open to admit you. Uniquely, sublimely, staggeringly you, other world yourself. This is the chrysalis of all making, I and thou, now.